What's up, everyone? It's BillyKayaks, and it's been a while, but Strictly Kayak Fishing. We're back with a new episode here with Bobby Young. Oh my goodness, you had an amazing year.
Thanks. I was worried there for a little bit. Sometimes I got a little worried, but it ended up pretty good.
Yeah. Well, I want to like jump into all of that. And it's kind of weird because it's like we're recording this on December 11th. Hopefully we release it this week, but the end of December is always a fun time. Maybe it's an interesting time. Like, we don't want the water to freeze, but then when it freezes, that means it's closer to unfreezing, and then we can get back out there.
When we try to talk about our worries, stresses, or how we're feeling down and are just told to stay positive or look on the bright side, this can encourage us to push down our emotions. So, although these messages are meant to be helpful, you can actually come away feeling worse.
So I want to do like a wrap up and kind of celebrate everything that you did. Let the Strictly Kayak Fishing podcast listeners kind of get to know you a little bit more and what you do, what you're all about, how you got started. Like I said, celebrate your big win. And then we have a little bit of a teaser announcement. I'm not sure what it would be. We have the 2025 Ohio kayak fishing schedule complete, and really CKF is also complete, but we're not going to talk about that one on this podcast because that would be a lot of podcasting. But for anyone who didn't last year, sign up, $50 membership. You get a t-shirt. If you've seen someone walking around the expo or wherever, and they've got that green and orange OKF t-shirt, that's where that came from. And then the Cincinnati kayak fishing, I think I have one of the, got a stack of them behind me. I think I have like 20 of them, and from over the years. So that's pretty exciting. So that's all 2025, but let's roll it back and talk to you about your results. Hey, I got a question for you. Do you fish in the winter, or do you hunt?
I fish. I used to hunt. If you ever see my head, you'll see this big horseshoe scar that came from a hunting accident. So I fish more than I hunt now.
Man, that's what I mean. Are you cool talking about it, or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, I guess you brought it up. So what happened?
Actually, I was just pulling a stand down, so I didn't have a harness on. I was taking the steps out. I was in Southern Ohio, down by MacArthur, and it was in a poplar tree. And, if anybody knows anything about poplar trees, the limbs are really weak. Well, wasn't thinking about it. Couldn't get the top step out. And I was just trying to change leverage, switch to my right hand. So I grabbed a limb with my left hand, and that's the last thing I remember. So it's like 26 foot up, and yeah.
Wow.
So ground caught me.
Yeah. So you had, were you out there with a buddy, or?
My nephew was there.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess I got up and walked out. I don't remember any of that. I have no memory of the fall. I have no memory of getting back. I just remember being back at camp and him shaking his head at me.
Yeah, it's like those what they talk about in football. They're like, "Oh, that was a mild concussion," and then people get like pretty angry. They're like, "There's no such thing. A concussion is a concussion."
Yeah, it was pretty rough. I got to where about an hour later, I couldn't see straight in front of me, only the side. My body started shaking. I couldn't get it to stop. So we knew something was wrong, and yeah, made her trip to the hospital and ended up care flighting me. They had a bad storm, so they couldn't take me to Columbus. They had to fly me south to West Virginia. So I had to spend a couple of days down there.
Oh my gosh, man! What happened? Like, I hit record, and then I get all excited to talk with people. I'm like, "Hey, how's it going?" Like, and then that's where we went. I didn't expect it to be a flight to the hospital and all that. That is, man, I'm so good to hear that. I mean, obviously you made a recovery, and maybe the fishing community you got pushed our way.
Yep, there's always a reason for everything, right?
That's right, man. I went out. I think I was like almost 40 years old. I was 39 or almost 40. I'm 48 now. And my father-in-law was like, man, he goes hunting every year. He's like, we got to go out. We got to go out in the woods. And he spent a day and a half in the woods with me like carrying a gun around in the woods. And he was like, you need to take a hunter safety course. So he told me,
what? I mean, you must have been doing something. He said, well,
I think I was just being me. I wasn't being unsafe. I just, you don't know what you don't know. And you take the hunter safety course and, you're like, oh, wow. Okay. I actually went to a place and I pulled in and there were like all the guys with the big trucks and the camo and they got the fish hooks on their bill of their hat. And I'm like, oh man, I pulled up in my Honda Accord. I was feeling pretty good about like, all right, I'm in the right place. And I walk in, sit down to take the test. And they're like these little short tables. And then I realized that like, those were all the dads. So I was there, 40-year-old me, I was there to take a test with like 8-year-olds, 12-year-olds. And,
it's got to happen sometime though, right?
Yeah, man, I did it. But, and it, I think what sparked the memory was part of it was like all that, the deer stand and the safety that comes along with some of that. And I would have never known any of that or, walking out to your stand, like, count your steps and then stop so that you don't sweat. And then, the risk of hypothermia and all that stuff. So, it's a big thing for me, but we had the same thing with anglers, right? Like we have to wear the dry suit in the winter and be safe, right?
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. I'm waiting on mine to get back from getting repaired from NRS right now. So I talked to them the other day. They sent me an email and I didn't see it. And they said the wrist grommets need to be replaced and they were waiting on my answer. And I'm thinking, crap, that was 2 weeks. I could have had it by now.
Oh,
but
how long have you had it?
Well, I bought it from a guy and he told me I got a good price on it. It was like $1,300 brand new, but I gave him a couple $100 for it. So but knowing I have to send out and get it redone. But yeah, I'm going to do winter fishing. Usually I don't wear any of that. I just put overalls on and brave it. But
yeah. I mean, we've all been there. And I think, Chuck Earls and Jeff Little, like there's a lot of people, they'll put videos out there, telling Kurt Smits, like I've seen countless videos of people saying like, hey, you gotta, if the weather's not right, you gotta dress properly. So that's cool, man. I'm glad you got that and I hope you get it back soon and get out there so that you can maybe be like me and go out in the winter and not catch any fish in the ice cold water. That's what I do.
I usually don't. I mean, when I have my boat, I go out all the time. I never, winterize the motor, but I'd never put it up for the winter. I'd keep it ready.
Nice.
As long as the water wasn't frozen, I was on the water. So.
And then I've never owned a bass boat. So when I just think about like small engine stuff. So if you winterize it and then you take it out, you got to like repeat the process.
Well, as long as I'm not pulling water back up through the motor, and I just make sure the motor's down when I get out so everything drains out. But
okay.
Yeah, mainly you don't want to have anything up through the line. So
yeah,
that's a big part. What's
your favorite cold water or Ohio winter fish? Still bass or you go after something else?
Oh, bass, definitely. Yeah. Saw guys a close second in the winter, but I love bass fishing. So it's hard not to do that.
I started going out. If we do it again this year, it'll be the 3rd year in a row. But I went out with Ryan Parker. We do like a Christmas Day muskie trip.
Huh, that'd be fun.
Yeah, the kids are done opening their presents. And then you have that moment late morning into the afternoon where it's like, what are we doing? We're all sitting around. Well, anyway, kids are looking at their devices anyway. So, yeah, so we went muskie fishing. That was a lot of fun. But hey, man, I want to jump in and talk about your finish. I know we did a post right after the season ended, but obviously your big event, the TOC was like obviously a great day. But as I look through some of those other events, man, I'm just reflecting back on like Indian Lake, how windy it was and the weather was horrible. You got 4th place at Alum Creek. Or Hoover, if you fished at Hoover. No, you fished at Allen, didn't you?
Allen, yeah.
It was a huge storm came in, and it was cold and all that. So, I mean, you're just looking at some of your finishes, what do you think as you look back, like what was your, excluding the TOC where you pulled it out and you brought it home, beat Stallbaum, Skidmore, excluding that one, what was your favorite tournament of the year?
Man, I mean, I had two really, and one I didn't do that great in. It's just 'cause the nice fish I caught out of it. I've never been on mosquito, and that fishery was a little different, but it didn't take long to figure out how to catch a fish on it. It's just knowing where the big ones are at. And luckily, I got to come across one that was 21 and a half. I had big bass for most of the day. Then the guy beat me by a quarter inch, which is amazing for a lake to have that kind of fish in it. So,
Oh yeah. Yeah, man. I
but
think we had like one year, I think 20 some plus anglers had like over 80 inches or maybe over 85. No, not 85, like 80. It was insane.
but I'd have to say the Allen Hoover one was probably my favorite.
And then
And
what's your experience like on that lake?
I've only fished it. I've only been on Allen that made two times in my life being on there. But I don't know. I just love the option of smallmouth, largemouth. And then you had multiple waters if you wanted to choose to travel to the other lake. But I prefer Allen, obviously. I like smallmouth fishing more than I do largemouth. So, but I made a couple plans that day. I was trying to target the smallmouth. I did it in practice, and I was on some good smallmouth. But that storm came in, like it just wiped my plan completely out. So I
Yeah.
had a backup plan. So that kind of panned out.
I'm guessing your backup plan was go find the largemouth.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
hoping to find some that were still in beds because in practice I caught a 20-incher that still had a bloody tail. And I'm like, all right, this might work. But
Nice.
yeah,
I know I struggled to catch, not, yeah, I think I struggled to get limit. I probably had like 7 or 8 fish that day. And I remember at the major and Jason Isaacs was like, oh, I think I caught 50 fish. My shoulders are sore. And I'm like, I don't want to talk to you. Have you
yeah,
ever,
I
you ever
caught a
had a
lot of
tournament where
things.
you caught like 40, 50 fish?
Yeah, but it's bad. Well, the East and West, it was all day. I couldn't. It's like 15, 15. It's like, come on, something be over 15, and it's 15 a quarter. Like, all right, we got a little upgrade. That one was rough for me, not being able to find big fish. But I think I talked to you in the parking lot after that. I
Yeah,
was,
I remember that. I was with my son and his girlfriend. Yep, I remember that. You were talking about how you still had hopes because you started out really strong, and then East West maybe middle of the pack, but you were like, no, I'm feeling pretty good, and then you were right. You called your shot.
oh yeah,
I think
what are you
so.
talking about for the end of the year or what?
No, I just think you were still like super optimistic, and it's not like you didn't have like one bad day and you're like, oh man, you were just ready. You were just as hungry after 3 events with 3 to go, as you probably were going into the Alum Creek.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and I don't know why, but I almost prefer to be a little bit behind. I don't like to be the guy that's out front. I don't know why that is, but I like to be just back in striking distance. So I feel more comfortable being there. I don't want all the eyes on me and expectation, I guess.
Well, that's where you are now. You're not like you won. So now you're out. Now you're out in front. So
Yeah, yeah, I got to try to repeat, right?
that's right. Um, the East Harbor, you're talking about those 15, 15 and a quarter. And I know people say it like they go to like Susquehanna and these other places. Um, and they're like, oh, the fish are just different. Those East Harbor fish really are different. Like a 15-inch largemouth on East Harbor, their heads are giant, right?
But yeah, yeah, they're you can tell they're. I look at them as older fish, just maybe stunted, maybe. I mean, I'm not saying that's right, but in
Yeah.
my head, that's what I keep envisioning. But yeah,
What's
they're definitely different.
yeah, what's your favorite technique on East or West Harbor?
So actually, that was only my second time fishing in there. I stayed the last time I was there, I stayed on the rocks and I did pretty good. But when it came to this event, I caught a couple out there good, but then I practiced out in the grass and I'm like, all right, I caught some good ones out here. Something told me the big one's going to be off and not up in there. And I was worried about all the boats coming in out of that channel. And I thought, well, if I know I go to the rocks, everybody's going to be there. Then I watched Brian Slayton's video, and he was like the only one there. I was like, well, maybe I should have done that in reverse.
He was like on a like a ride, like he was on a carnival ride.
Yeah,
That was his video was wild.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I had that in mind in the morning, and then I got in a bunch of grass in my prop, and I kept pulling it up because I couldn't see the grass. So I was like, yeah, we're just staying here. That was my plan to go to the rocks, but nope, we're just staying here. That was my sign. I'm staying here. Wasn't a good sign, but
Yeah. Do you have a motor?
yeah.
Okay. 'Cause
Yeah.
you said prop. I wasn't sure. Maybe it was like manual, but do you have like a bow mount or?
Yeah, I got the i3,
Okay.
the GPS one.
Yeah, I mean that one seems to be like pretty killer for that lake. I know Stahlbaum and Robert Weicker, some of those guys have really done well sitting out there, and it's I'm not saying hard to compete with them because it's their strategy. They figured it out. But I'm just like, man, I'm like going around them in circles. I was coming up one time on I call him Bobby, but I was coming up on Weicker one time and he just motioned to the other side of his boat with his hand, like I was gonna pass him on the wrong side. It was like that way, Billy. You gotta go that way. I was like, all right, fair enough. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. They got it dialed in out there, but those fish are they in the morning, they spread out. So, anyone, you can get a 20-inch in the morning, but it's just when the sun comes up, like you said, you're out in the middle where that grass is, it's 7 to 8 feet at its deepest.
Yep.
And you're just like, where did they go? And it's about finding those grass edges. You probably noticed it like mosquito. I forgot my battery one year, my fish finder battery. And I had an idea on where I wanted to go, like a grass edge. And I got out there and there was like 20 boats lined up. I was like, oh, there's the grass edge.
Yeah, right here with everybody else.
Yeah. So I probably told that story before, but
yeah. On East and West, I think I did something different than everybody, and I was hoping that would work. But I have a Mega 360 on there, and when I found bluegill beds, it was bright. You couldn't miss it on there, right? But I found a lot of beds, but I was looking for ones with bluegill in it. So that Mega, it looks like a little piece of rice right in the bed. So I was like, all right, this one's got bluegill on it. Now in practice, I was catching 17s out of it. I'm thinking, all right, there's got to be big ones around. I wasn't hitting it hard. But you catch 17s in there and you're thinking I could get a decent bag and then go look for a big one. But I just couldn't. I think 15 and a half or 15 and 3/4 was my biggest that day. It was crazy how it changed from one day to the next. So it is what it is, man.
Yeah. So you were probably, I don't know, you were probably just not catching the females, right? You were catching the male bass that were.
That's what it seemed like.
Yeah. Do they do the same thing? I know the females will kind of stalk the bluegill beds and like ambush them. I guess the male probably do the same thing, right?
I would assume so. You think, it was groups of, cookie cutter, same size. So usually that's like a wolf pack.
Yeah.
Offshore bite. So they're going to probably travel together.
Yeah. It's so crazy how much that story is repeated with like tournament fishing where pre-fishing or practice was like lights out and then something happens. We had I think it was 2 years ago, OKF or BKFT, maybe it was last year at BKFT. It was Alum Creek. They were getting like 90 inches in practice, smallmouth on Alum. And then that morning, for whatever reason, I don't know if it was weather. I've even looked at fish. I caught a giant that was like skinny. And then I caught one that was like a total football. And I looked up and it was 2 days apart. It was a year apart, but it was 2 days apart. But a year apart. And I'm like, that is so crazy. Like, fish. I don't know. That's why we love it. Right?
Right.
So you mentioned your bass boat, but this is so fun. Like this, we've talked about it a ton on this podcast before. How the camaraderie and the brotherhood and fellowship and all that is just so amazing with the kayak angling. And I don't have anything to compare it to because I never fished in the bass boat world. But how'd you get into specifically like kayak fishing?
It was, I think probably it'd been not last season, but the season before. I had a friend, Brent Yamada. He started fishing the kayak trail, and I kept talking about getting in one, but with work schedules, like, man, I can't commit to traveling right now. I would just fish local events. And he's like, yeah, you really got to try this. So we booked everything for the Bassmaster Classic to go down and watch last year or 2 years ago, I guess, to be in Tennessee. And that was the Yoko's first event. I was like, I already promised the kids I'm taking them. So I'm like, well, maybe I won't get into it this year. And when I came back home, like, no, we're dropping, you drop your lowest. I was like, oh, I didn't realize that was a thing on there. So I hurried up and ran out and bought a fishing kayak as quick as I could and try to rig it up. And I guess it was pretty much history from there. I mean, my first event was on Indian, and I think I got like fifth on that one. And then after that, it was like a second. I was always behind Brad Lehman and Sean Skidmore. I was like, man, I just get good days. I just can't get ahead of these guys. But it was so much funner. I say it like that, but compared to it being in a boat, the challenge was harder. I don't know, something just caught me, and I said, yeah, this is where I'm at now. So I sold my boats, if that tells you anything. I don't have any boats. I had 2 boats. I don't have one now.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I didn't realize that. Yeah, you're not the first person to say behind Brad and Sean in a fishing tournament. So what did you get, like the first kayak? And then not just what did you get, but like what was that experience like going out to shop for a kayak?
Well, I got a line, and Eco Fishing was the first one to pop up, and I knew I wanted a pedal drive, but I wasn't sure if I was going to like it or not. So I didn't go like too crazy. I got a C Stream. It's like a PDO pedal drive 120 is what it was. I'm not sure how they labeled on there, but
yeah.
But yeah, it was a fast, skinny little boat for no motor. But
yeah, and then what year was that?
Last year, so 2023.
Okay, and then you said it was so you upgraded the boat, and I know I saw your boat at East Harbor, but I can't remember. I barely remember what I have.
I knew at the end, so I ended up winning Angler of the Year in the Yoko one last year, and I knew right away. I was like, I'm making this move, so I'm going to go for something probably a little bit higher in quality and in a bigger boat. So yeah, I ended up selling that in the fall, and then in the fall I purchased the Titan X 12.5 from Native.
Yeah, that was man, that was at that moment when you bought it, that was probably like all the like I can't remember so much hype around a kayak. Right? There was so much hype around that one.
And well, I can't believe how many people bought them. I thought I'm probably going to be, this price. I might be like the only guy maybe out there that I heard another guy say he bought one. And Corey Strand, he bought one. I was like, well, everybody's getting them now. I don't feel so special, but I did put a lot of money. I didn't want to put that much money into I put a lot of money into it though.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I have around 10 grand into that kayak right now, but
yeah, it's fun. Not fun. It's interesting when someone approaches you at like a ramp or they yell to you from the bank and they want to talk about your kayak, and then they're like, how much is that? And you're like, man, I should definitely leave out the cost of the electronics and all my fishing gear. I'll have like 10 rods with me. Like, okay. I have a PA 14. Mine's a 2020 and it's held up amazingly. Like to the point where I don't even want to get rid of it because I'm like, I had to warranty the drive. So I have a new drive and then no leaks in the boat. And I just love it. I'm not a big guy, so I don't know how many issues people have are due to like cracking from their seat, or maybe they force. I think the drives, sometimes they force those drives through like some weeds. And I'm like, you wouldn't do that with a motor. Maybe you would do it. I do that with my Torpedo. Yeah, I shouldn't say that.
It's hard not to push yourself through anything you get in, but
yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of torn. It's like, do I get a Hobie? Um, I live farther north, so the closest shop to me was down in Dayton, and so I went down there and they had a bunch of bona fides, and I was like, well, it's close to me, but I know all you guys are down there with the Hobie, and I felt like the oddball there for a little bit, but I was like, I went with something close to me right now. It's always room for change.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is if you're going to buy new, I say buy it from a shop. Buy it from they're all local, like they're small shops. No matter if it's Loveland, Raccoon Creek, Strictly Sale, you buy from a shop, and then you have that warranty. Something happens. I mean, Brian Tacey will take care of people if anything happens with your boat. There's no runaround. There's no red tape. They take care of their customers. So that's why I say you buy used. It's like buying a used car. You're buying someone else's problem, and you might save some money, but man, I hope you're getting a good deal.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But and then we move on to the TOC. So what was your what were your thoughts going into it? Obviously, you were probably optimistic, and you're not trying to not win, but you have to understand, the history with Skidmore and Aaron Stahlbaum and how successful they've been, over many years of doing this kayak stuff. So what was your mindset going into that day?
I told myself I had to win because I figured one of them guys would be up there in the top, and I'm thinking both of them are tied, and I think they were 3 points ahead of me. I was like, I got at least beat them by 3 spots. So, and my buddy Brent the week before, me and him finished first and second in the other tournament champions for the Oko, and I knew he was in that event too. So I'm like, all right, if I can get up ahead of him again in this one, and Brent can finish second because he had a good pattern, maybe I can push one of them guys out. But the bite changed though from one week to the next, which you probably heard that a lot on that. It really changed a lot. So I had 87 and a half the week before, and I heard in practice, I stopped at the camp the night before, and Skidmore and all them, they were saying, yeah, it's a tough bite. You're lucky to get one good fish in the day. And I was like, wow, it's going to be a tough one. Yeah. So mentally, it kind of changed what I did in the morning, and I don't know. I lost a few fish first thing in the morning, and I'm kicking my ass in the boat. Just like I'm doing this at the wrong time. It's the wrong tournament for this to happen. But,
yeah. How were you losing them? Were you losing them at the boat, or they were just not a good hook set?
I got into a lot of them in the dark, and I just couldn't see what was going on. I know a lot of it was I was still trying to fish some pads that were left. I figured that temperature change. There's not a lot of big boulders in that lake, so I was looking for something that would hold heat. Usually vegetation to hold a little bit of heat. So I mean, as soon as they was hitting the water, they grab it. I'd feel, you feel fish, you feel it fight. I lift it over it, and you hear it come off. It's like, yeah, it's hard to make an adjustment if you don't realize what's actually going on at that point. But I left a lot of that out of my video because it was dark. It's like nobody's going to see what's going on anyways. It's just going to hear a bunch of splashing.
Yeah, that's so difficult with the videos like that early in the morning. When you're there, it's kind of cool. It's this, even when the sun starts to come up, it's just a really cool experience. But sometimes on video, it's like, nope. So
you get to that point where it's getting ready to be good. I mean, the fish are getting ready to bite. That's usually like the golden hour right there, that first hour of daylight. And
yeah, for sure. Okay, so I sent you a little bit of a preview of the schedule that's coming out. You can't fish, so there's no unfair advantage. I mean, maybe you're going to go fish, but they're going to move. But I sent you a little preview on the schedule right before we got on this call. Is there anything that jumped out to you? Anything you're looking forward to?
Yeah, the first one about being Allen.
Yeah.
I'm excited. Well, all right, that's the first event, and it's going to be a little bit earlier. So I don't know. I feel that would play to my strength better with the smallmouth.
Oh, for sure. If the smallmouth are fired up, it's going to be I mean, there's a chance for it to be like some bumper boats in certain areas, but you still got to catch them. Like, you still got to catch them, man. It's a lot of fun. It's April 5th, Alum. Maybe some people will choose to go to Hoover. This is not a preview show. If you tuned in to get a preview of the schedule, you're in the wrong place. But I know Hoover does a drawdown in the fall, and then it's really dependent on like weather, and they try to build it back up, and they're trying to be back to summer pool by maybe like the end of May. So depending on how much snow, rain that we get, May 3rd, or no, that's the next one. April 5th, there's still a chance there could be some water in there, but who knows if you know how to ledge fish and do all that crazy stuff. Maybe somebody goes to Hoover.
That water clarity probably going to play a big part too.
Yeah.
Being that early in the year.
And then I'm not going to go all the dates or whatever. We're still doing 2 bass qualifiers. So once the schedule comes out, check those out. But we're going to East West Harbor again, Portage, but we're including Portage and then Nimi, Wingfoot, and Mogador. So we're going to spread people out a little bit. That's going to be a lot of fun. I've never fished Wingfoot, but it seems so cool with that. There's that blimp hanger right there. We're doing Columbus Rivers. Last year was Dayton. I think the year before was Dayton. So this is the first year out of 3 that we're going to be Columbus Rivers. Then Mosquito, the one you mentioned. And Mosquito is, man, that lake has been on fire for like 5 years now.
Yeah, it was awesome. It's a trip, but that was my first time being there.
Yeah.
I didn't practice, but I don't even know if I will practice again, to be honest with you.
Well, I mean,
I don't want to get something in my head ahead of time, but man, that was all that water was good. Everywhere I went, I caught fish.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Mosquito is fun for sure. We try to mix it up a little bit, remove one of the crowd favorites and input something that's a little bit different. So we can't do that with all of them, only having a six tournament schedule, but Salt Fork Lake, we're going to go there. And then we did change up the TOC. It's going to be Indian Lake. Last 2 years we were at Kaiser. The idea with Kaiser is that we couldn't fish Kaiser with our trail because there's too many people. We can't put it on the regular schedule. There's no motor, so people aren't moving around fast, but I think it's too small for 70, 75 anglers. So, Indian's going to be fun, for the TOC. And the other thing we have we talked about a little bit, about the brotherhood and the camaraderie and all that. So the camping, when you look at all these places, they all have, well, most of them have camping available. So, yeah. Did you camp at Mosquito or did you do round trip?
No, I camped. I got there late. I got there the night before, like almost at dark. So I got to go down and look at the water and look where I was going to put in. That's about all I got.
Yeah. Right there with you. I've done that many times. But I want to kind of go back. Well, I was asking you like how you got into kayak fishing and how you bought your boat and all that. And I feel like I kind of missed out on an opportunity to let you talk more. Sometimes I talk too much, and allow you to like just expand on like, how'd you even get into fishing and where'd the passion of fishing come from? Like, take me all the way back.
All right. So I had 2 grandfathers that both loved to fish. One lived in Cleveland. The other lived up on Lake Laramie. So usually the one in Laramie I'd be at a lot on the weekends. And he was retired. He loved to crappie fish. I learned at a young age, I don't like to just sit there. I'm not watching the bobbers. So, kind of self-taught, walking around the banks with rooster tails and little crankbaits, and started figuring out the bass pattern. And every time I went up, I couldn't wait to bass fish. But, you go up to Cleveland, it was completely different when you get up there. He lived on a golf course. So some of them golf course ponds, those bass were dark and aggressive, and I don't know, that kind of just hooked me from there. So I just couldn't wait to fish whenever I went to one to the other. So I think every vacation from that point on was I got to fish on vacation.
Oh,
But and where I lived at, where I grew up at in Piqua, we lived on a lake. It was, if you know those lakes there, it's the Swift Run, Echo. There's three of them that tie together a canal system, and basically walk right down and fish. You know, take lures out of the tackle box and run down there. And Dad knew the fishing poles were gone. He'd be on us, so we'd take sticks and extra string and just throw them out there. Anything we could do just to fish. So I guess it always stuck with me from that point. And the GMR ran through town, so you jump on a bicycle and take off and start fishing on the river. And the river became a passion to me after that. I favor river over lakes any day.
so do you get much fishing in, because the one tournament's going to be in Columbus instead of the Dayton rivers? Have you fished many of the Central Ohio rivers?
I went one time last year on a Scioto. It was a challenge. I guess I went to the wrong spot, not knowing the river. I call it an 18-incher, but it was a struggle a little bit. But it's new water and fishing was a little different. The river's awesome though. I can't say maybe it was a bad day that day we were down there, but a lot of the guys, it was right there towards fall, so a lot of the guys fished up near Griggs. They had a lot more success up there, but so that's my only experience there. Every time I drive through Columbus, you see water everywhere. So it'd be something to learn, find new waters.
Yeah, I think that's I live in Columbus, but I work in Indy and Cincinnati quite a bit. And anytime I'm driving from Columbus to Indy, imagine how many rivers I have to drive over.
You probably see a lot.
And I'm like, no, I think I drive over a couple of them, like more than once. Same river. I'm like, oh, but that's fun. And then there's some in Indy too. And I'm like, man, I got that. I got an iTrek 9, and I'm like, when I bought it, I was like, oh, I'm gonna put it in the back of my truck, like in the back seat. And then I'm like, I'm gonna get an Indy fishing license, and I never did it. Maybe this year.
Be over there with Shrinko, huh?
Yeah, right. Yeah, he's caught a few.
Yeah.
And then Parker does the same thing, and Steve Baker, they have, motors mounted on their inflatable, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on.
I want to try one of those out. I'm really curious. I want to see how those feel.
Yeah, I mean, I like mine because I have the pedal drive, and I'm really familiar with, the Hobie pedal drive. But, the one of the biggest things, Jeff Little is always talking about is you drop a lure, you drop your pliers or something, that sound doesn't go all the way through the water.
Yeah.
But being able to go upstream is huge. And you don't have to have an inflatable to go upstream, but having the motor and then going upstream, you're just you're approaching the fish from a whole different, because, when you talked about growing up fishing, creeks and stuff like that. When we got kayaks, we were always going downstream. Going upstream, I'm like, why would I paddle upstream? That sounds dumb.
Yeah, especially when you're just paddling. I mean, if you're paddling, how can you fish?
Yeah. Yeah. And then you see them go upstream, and it's a lot of fun. Well, listen, man, I think I told you originally, try to keep these around 40 minutes or so, but we'll kind of end it here. Congratulations again on winning the first year, the inaugural year of the Ohio Kayak Fishing. One of what I hope is like many, many years. Huge shout out to Strictly Sail and Kayak for sponsoring it. We've said it at Measure Ins. We say it on this podcast. Without someone like Strictly Sail, we wouldn't be able to do this. Like, it's all volunteer work. This is a hobby and a passion for so many people, but it still takes some resources behind the scenes, and they're crushing it. And then the good part is somebody gets a trophy at the end of the year and a bunch of money. So 2024, that was Bobby Young. You are the champion until someone beats you. And congratulations, man.
Thanks. Appreciate
Anything else you want to add, or anyone you want to give a shout out to?
I want to, the fishing rods I use, I want to give, I guess, a shout out to Jared Brown, J Brown Custom Rods out of Springfield. Dude makes one heck of a set of rods. So that's pretty much all I'm going to fish with this next year. So if anybody's interested in new rods, he can definitely give you a good deal on them. Rain Shadow, Liberty, any blank you want, he pretty much can get for you. So.
There you go, man. That's awesome. Do you have you post? I know you do videos. Are you also on Instagram and all the things?
Yeah, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Young's Fishing on all three.
Young's Fishing. All right, fishing. I don't know. Sound like a
Young's Fishing.
Fishing. ING. All right. Cool. All right, man. Well, I appreciate it. I appreciate your time and appreciate everyone hanging in there. I know it's been a little while since we recorded one of these. So the biggest thing is, the most obvious thing is, we get pretty rusty. I get pretty rusty as a host, and that means I end up talking too much. So I already said that twice. So we will end it there. And thanks again, man. I can't wait for 2025. Hope to see everyone at the Fishing Expo. And if not, I hope to see you all for Alum or Hoover event or upcoming CKF event or Okos. We can't end. I forgot to also announce you're going to run that trail.
Yeah, we're going to give that one a shot this year. I'm not sure of a schedule yet. I'm waiting until CKF comes out. But my plan is just flowing waters on that one. And it's going to be a small schedule.
But you're gonna run the trail, right?
Yes, I'm going to take it over.
Okay, I didn't know if I made that up. All right. Well, good luck with that. Obviously, there's so many of us, and shout out to Brad as well. Brad Lehman, we've talked about, like, Brad is always stepping up and willing to help. So, but I'm here. There's so many other people. If you need any help, if you need any advice or whatever, let us know. Unless it's like catching fish, I can't help you with that. So. All right, man. Thanks again.
Thanks for having me on.
All right. Bye.
See you.